You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club.
Last time on Graphic Novel Explorers Club.
Burn, you fucking witch, burn! Yeehaw!
Jesse, they got Cassidy!
I'm not Cassidy. I'm Jesse Custer. But really, I'm Cassidy. All right, folks. This is episode 3 of Graphic Novel Explorers Club covering Preacher. And this is volume 3, Proud Americans. Dennis, you want to tell the folks the little publishing thing?
So Johnny gave us basically the original volumes as they were released.
He gave us junk.
9 volumes, but they've since condensed them to about 6 volumes. So if you're buying the books now, you'll only get 6 volumes. So we may not cover the exact story arcs that you're seeing in the books that you're reading.
Yeah, we're basically covering from Jesse's dad and his Vietnam experience to when Cassidy, spoiler alert, is rescued from the Grail's headquarters in France. So the story starts off with Jesse and this man lighting up cigarettes next to each other at an airport, and they're both lighting their cigarettes with Zippo lighters, and they both
say fuck communism.
Fuck communism on them. Fuck communism on them, if I can say it. And the man turns. He's got this big foobar mustache, black man, and like it looks. I don't know what he's wearing. It's like a white suit. I don't know if that's like.
It looked like he works at a mental ward.
Yeah, or maybe he's a painter or something. You know, like a house painter. I'm not sure, but he's like John Custer, and he goes, no. That John was my dad, my daddy. He always calls him my daddy
because Jesse does look like the spitting image minus his 80s hair.
Yeah, late 90s.
Right.
He, he's like, oh my God, I served in Vietnam with your dad. So he pulls out this photo and says, hey, look, this is me, your dad, and this guy named Ghani. And, I served in Vietnam with your dad. And then Jesse tells Billy, this man named Billy, my daddy died in 1974. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and he's kind of heartbroken to hear that information. He goes, you want to hear a couple stories about your dad? And Jesse's like, yeah, I would love to hear him. So you come to find out how he got the fuck communism lighters were, or the situation was, they were the command was all the troops were ordered to stand at attention. Like, we got a special guest coming in to meet everyone, and off the plane comes John Wayne, and he's got this case full of these Zippo lighters that say "fuck communism." I wonder if that was a real thing. Like,
I don't know. I know he filmed while the Vietnam War was happening. That movie, The Green Berets.
He went to Vietnam and filmed.
He didn't go to Vietnam to film it.
Oh.
I know they filmed the movie that was about Vietnam while Vietnam was happening.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if. I mean, I imagine part of the USO he might have gone there. Who knows?
Okay. So, so he gives them the lighters. And then come to find out Ghani, their friend, is named that because he keeps getting gonorrhea, and he's kind of the goofball, but they love him. Billy and John Custer love this kid because he's kind of a cut up. He lights his farts on fire and is just kind of a goofball. Well, they have above them, or it starts off, this other guy named Baker, I think, is in their command and is kind of an antagonist to everyone, and then he gets promoted to corporal, and now they have to fucking listen to him. So he keeps giving them like latrine duty, just all this shitty duty because he can't stand the 3 of them. And then they get this rookie lieutenant who's trying to prove himself because his dad's a politician, and he enlisted to try and prove to his dad like he's got true grit, to use a John Wayne movie. But he's such an idiot, he's going to get these guys killed. Well, the corporal and the lieutenant decide out on a hump that they're kind of lost, and they find a village, and he says, like, oh, the lieutenant tells him, like, oh, you guys should go down to the village and see what's going on. And John Custer and Billy are like, there's no reason for us to go down in there. Like, we can recon it from here. We can see that there's no weapons. Doesn't appear to be anybody in the village. Like, that's a death trap just waiting to happen. And the corporal kind of backs the lieutenant. Is like, no, we need to go down in there. So they send Gawny Billy and John Custer down in there. Well, while they're there, this little grandma walks up, and Gawny goes up to her and is trying to communicate, and turns out she's got a grenade and
blows herself up.
Yeah, and Gawny.
Yeah.
And John Custer is immediately. Him and Billy are just covered in brains and blood and bits. That they're going to kill the corporal, but they can't do anything while the lieutenant's alive. Well, coincidentally, a couple weeks later, the lieutenant gets shot through the head because he wears his lieutenant insignia on his uniform.
So the VC are obviously going to...
Which you never do. If you're an officer in war, you do not wear your insignia. You don't salute the officer because you can get sniped. And they want to take out the person that leads because then there'll be disarray amongst the troops. So one day when the corporal's taking a shit in the latrine, Jesse and Billy pop the boards loose, and he falls through into the shit can underneath.
Right, they basically roll him in that shit can.
Oh, it's so gross.
It is gross. When I thought about that, I was pretty grossed out. And so I thought this was kind of a harmless prank, but then it doesn't turn out.
No, they're going to kill him.
Right, and I wasn't sure how they were going to, but so they end up rolling that can, and ends up catching some air, right, and getting caught in the trees.
And there's it's rolling down the hill, and there's VC outside the camp just waiting, to try and kill someone that's leaving, and they shoot up the can, and as it's rolling downhill, they're just shooting at it, and then they launch an RPG into it and blow him up. And Billy's like, that's the kind of your dad stood up for people. He's a good guy, and then he gives him the cut. He's like, do you want this photo of me and your dad and Gawny? And Jesse's at first like, no, I can't accept that. I can't take that. He's like, no, your dad would want this, and I want you to have it too. If you never have any understanding of your dad since you were 5, like, you need to take this. Like, this is yours. So it closes out with I've never heard this before. It's like a little written thing over the closing of the story where Jesse. So at this point, Jesse shakes Billy's hand. Is like, I got to go to France to get one of my friends out of a tight situation like that. And it says, thinking about Vietnam once in a while in a crazy kind of way. I wish that just for a while I could be there and then be transported back. Maybe just to be there so I'd wish I was back here again. And it just says, anonymous U.S. serviceman quoted in Nam by Mark Baker, which I'd never heard that quote before. So then you jump to the 1994, which takes place about 3 or 4 years before the story's taking place. And there's a what are those
aircraft carriers?
Yeah, but what are those Top Gun
F-14 Tomcats?
Yeah, Tomcat. Kept wanting to call it Tomahawk.
That's a missile.
Yeah, is flying around, and there's reports of a UFO, and then you see this angel almost hit the airplane, and the wings, it's on fire, and its wings are burned off. So when you first saw that, what did you guys think?
I skipped that part.
I wasn't sure exactly what was happening there. Like, I wasn't sure if that's what happens when they cast off the angels, because they toss them in the pits. And then that's how
the lower angels, the Delphi or whatever.
So I wasn't sure if that's what ends up happening or if this was something else of that kind of nature.
Okay, so the first time I read this too, I was like, what the fuck is going on? That's the thing with this book. It's always, it's so out there. There's never a situation where like, okay,
clearly that's happening.
Yeah, that's okay. This is what's happening now. Like Garth Ennis has done a good job of like building up the
world,
acceptability of any weird shit happening in this world. So then you skipped over this entirely, Francis?
No, not entirely. Like, I just would do a few pages to get the gist. Like, I got it. Like, they're in Vietnam. Stuff happened. Like, okay.
Okay, well, now we're back to the main arc of the story, which is let's rescue Cassidy out of France.
Yeah.
At this point, the Grail still believes that he is Jesse and...
That Cassidy is Jesse.
Cassidy is Jesse, and that he's the one that will hopefully be the rightful front man for the Grail.
Well... And Herr Starr is talking to like his second in command as far as like troop command about, okay, we're how is the Allfather aware of anything? does he know what's going on, and how many troops do we have here that support us? Like, what kind of backing do we have here inside the Grail at the headquarters? Masada, that's what it's called, Masada. And the guy's like, well, we've got like maybe 24 folks. And then he asks him like, well, how many of those actually speak English? And he's like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12. And he's like, okay, those 10 or 12 cannot be involved with what happens next. So now Tulip and Jesse are in France, and they steal a car. They look like they're going to test drive it, and then they just steal it. And as they're moving along closer and closer to Masada, they start to remark like, hey, there's no cops after us. Like, something is up. Like something's going on. And then you come to find out Starr, through his control of the world, basically, the Grail's control of the world, they've told all police to just stay away, don't go near the car, like just let them travel unimpeded to wherever to Masada.
And at this point, does Starr realize that Jesse is not what?
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. Yeah. So then, the two angels, the lesser angels that were kicked out of heaven, right, are now like in a casino,
loving it. They run a casino, right?
Yeah. And they're just doing blow, banging all the time, just fucking and doing drugs.
They look like a bunch of 90s agents.
Yeah. And then in comes the Saint of all killers, and is basically like, you need to tell me what's going on, or I'm like, where is everyone, or I'm going to kill you. So they reveal, oh, he went to France. Because the angels seem to be like somewhat omnipotent themselves. Not entirely like as much as God, but they seem to like be aware of.
Which is great when you're running a casino.
You're right.
So then, oh no, okay, they do figure out that Cassidy is not Jesse, and they shoot him.
And they realize what he is.
Then no, they're going to do an autopsy because I'm sorry. At the end of volume 2, they shoot Cassidy. They figure out he's not Jesse because Featherstone tells them. Like, you got the wrong person. So they shoot him, and then thinking that he's dead, his hand comes up. So then
they shoot him like 1,000 times.
Yeah. So then they're doing an autopsy on him, and then he starts killing all the doctors that are
doing the autopsy.
Yeah, and then they start throwing grenades at him and just trying to kill the guy, and they realize like, oh shit, we can't.
Well, they do, like they did damage him, but he starts growing, like his body starts kind of coming back together.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jesse and Tulip, before the day before they're going to go into Masada, decide to have a nice dinner. She gets a nice
Which I don't get. You're there for a rescue mission, not on date night. But this was.
But when's the next chance they're going to be in France?
I
got
guess.
this. Like they're
on like a romantic dinner
Your
date.
friend has been taken by this omnipotent organization, and you're like, oh, when in France?
Yeah, they want
literally.
some baguette and some brie.
These two, Tulip and Jesse, have you guys ever seen Wild at Heart?
Yes.
They remind me of Nicolas Cage and Laura. Is it Laura Dern?
No.
Something Dern.
Was it Dern who was in there? Was it that?
Yeah, it was. What's her face from Jurassic Park?
Then it's Laura Dern.
It is Laura Dern?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Like, I feel like they were somewhat inspiring of these.
Definitely came around the same time.
No, that came out in 90.
Did it?
And this, that came out in 1990 because I was in high school.
But I think with a lot of the comic books, you especially, you always kind of relate it to a movie or something reminds you of a movie. I've noticed that. So I think maybe that's just you.
I don't think so. I think Johnny's onto something because a lot of comic artists, as we've seen, heavily lift sometimes certain types of characters.
So in your face, Francis.
I think he has a valid point.
No, I could see like some inspiration from the characters
for sure
because they're wild asses. She Sailor. That's it, Sailor. He's kind of a criminal and does some crooked shit, and Jesse's not like an entirely.
It is Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome
for making my point. No. So while they're at dinner, at this fancy French restaurant, they're assaulted by one of the command teams, and Jesse tells them to stop what they're doing. He tries to use the command of God, but because they don't speak English,
they can't understand.
It has no effect. So it's weird how these little loopholes come in there. Like God can God can cancel out
Jesse's
power, or if you don't speak English, like that seems weird. Like so God.
Well, no, that actually makes sense. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say if Jesse learned French, he probably would be.
Yeah,
able to.
That's what I mean. Yeah, if you don't understand English, or if you don't like, I don't understand Chinese. If someone spoke Chinese to me, I'm not gonna get it, no matter like who.
But does God have
it.
to like if a Chinese speaker, a Spanish speaker, an English speaker, he was in there trying to give commands to all three, be like,
So there is something
Spanish, Chinese, English.
Yeah, but there is something in religion called talking in tongues.
Oh, right.
And there is rules to validate that someone was talking in tongues, which is basically the word of God.
Yeah, you have to be drinking moonshine, and
Right.
you have to be handling
But
snakes.
somebody in the room, somebody who's present, has to be able to understand and interpret what you're saying. So
Really?
Yeah. So
To speak in tongue?
yeah, there's rules to it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but there is this thing in religion, and there are these ways. But to your point, yeah, you think you have the voice of God. Well, he doesn't have the voice of God. He has the voice of Genesis. That's the thing, right? So you think anybody should be able to stand it because it's so powerful. But I think because he doesn't have the power of God, it makes sense to me that it only works in certain...
It's like one power removed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's a little diluted. It's not
Exactly.
pure. Okay. So Jesse and Tulip uses her gun and is shooting a bunch of people, and Jesse beating the shit out of people like ninjas. They hired ninjas. I love that. So he's beating them up, and they wind up escaping. And Herr Starr brings in this hitman from New York, who's Italian descent. You probably love this.
A very unique hitman, which
Yeah.
once again speaks to Garth Ennis's sense of humor.
The guy was kind of like an enforcer for the mob, but a rival gang cut off his dick.
So he has a nickname, right? Because he's a eunuch, or something.
Oh yeah, what was the? Oh, Frankie the eunuch. It's not a very original nickname. So, but stereotyping Italians as mobsters.
Yeah.
Did you miss that?
No, I got it. I could go on a whole hour-long rant about that,
Yep.
but I will not.
So,
Looking at you, good fellas.
So then Tulip and Jesse are kind of discussing it, and Jesse's telling her like, you can't do this mission with me. His whole argument is like, I've already seen you die once. I thought you were dead. I cannot handle this happening again. So you got to let me do this on my own. And she's like, no, I'm not some helpless woman that.
Yeah, she just fought off all these ninjas.
Yeah, that's
she just fought off the sex party. Like, she
Yeah.
doesn't need to be protected by him.
And that's her point. Is like, I've saved you more than you've saved me.
Yeah. She's probably like, I need to go to make sure you don't die.
Yeah, and she and her other argument was like, you're so worried about me. Like, where were you at Desaad's party? Like, you took off because that's when he was.
Jesse's kind of whiny.
He is.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, because like, oh God, why did you do all this to me? Oh, Tulip, why did you run away from me? Like, God, you're
Wow,
needy.
that voice is. You should do the voice next time.
Yeah.
Like, he has a lot of pent up anger or something. He needs
definitely
to
he's
work
got a lot
out.
of anger.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, when he had that trauma happen to him at 6,
Yeah.
he's probably stunted his growth a great deal. He still admires John Wayne.
Yeah,
and
yeah. Or sees him.
Yeah, he's probably still a 6-year-old in his heart.
That's true. And I'm sure you guys can verify or not verify this. I'm stereotyping right now. But I'm sure men, especially my man, probably gets frustrated when they tell their woman to do something and they're just not listening or not doing it. I'm sure guys every once in a while are like, could you just listen to me just once?
I think that's just a partner thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I think that goes both
yeah.
ways.
Very PC.
I'm sure there's times when Sasha would be like, would you just fucking sit down and listen to me?
Yeah.
She does all the time.
Yeah, she does. She texts you guys about it. So, so the hitman has an old Enfield rifle, World War I rifle.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I forget now. He's basically torturing Cassidy, right? He's blowing off bits of him.
Well, it seems to be like that's how he gets his rocks off now.
Right.
Is because he has no dick. So,
Well, and this is amazing for him, right? He can start shooting away at this guy, and he's not dying right away.
Wait, so, well, and I think before that, though, going back, I kind of already hit on it, but what they realized is they shot him up so bad, but he didn't die, but his body slowly went back together again.
It's rejuvenating.
So I think what he's realized is he can keep him from attacking by keep wounding him, but
enough that he's in pieces.
Exactly. Like, so I didn't get that he enjoyed it so much. He started to towards the end, maybe, but I thought he was more like, hey, you can't die, but you're not going to help your friends either. Like,
which is really a poor use of a hitman. If all you want to do is incapacitate an already incapacitated super being, you could just have one of your lower end guys take a shotgun and continually shoot him while having the actual trained hitman.
Well, Herr, Starr and Frankie the eunuch talk about that. He's like, I imagine Herr Starr's like, I imagine you got a lot of pent up pent up whatever inside you, and he's like, oh yeah, he's like, they didn't even leave me a little stump to pee out of. Right. So I'm completely fucking frustrated. So, and it is, I think he does get off on this because the whole time he's like, before he starts shooting him, he talks about the gun and the history of the gun and like the caliber and what it does to somebody.
Oh, maybe he is
like,
then. Yeah,
like he's antagonizing him. Like he's letting him know like this is really, they don't even make this caliber a bullet that much anymore. So this
is a treat for both of us.
Yeah. So then
the Allfather.
So then
appears.
yes. So then
God.
it cuts forward to you see a ship where everybody's died on it, and the Saint of all killers has boarded this ship and is commandeered it, is going to France, and then a plane is coming into Masada in France, where the Grail headquarters is. As the plane's coming in, it crashes. Basically, the landing gear busts off, and then you come to find out that it's because the Allfather, the leader of this, is he is so fucking fat, like he bottoms out a plane.
Well, okay, so here, I mean, part of it's the art. I appreciate that he's supposed to be so fat, but he looks like the Blob from X-Men comics, which is like this perfect
I thought
ball.
he looked like Jabba the Hutt.
No, Jabba the Hutt at least looked lumpy. This guy's like a perfect ball. Like you could roll him down.
Well, it's his gown that he wears too is hiding some of his gut. But so as they get like 6 or 7 guys to get the Allfather, which I don't know why they don't have like a lift or steps, like concrete steps.
Exactly.
Because he's the Allfather, he will be carried.
Yeah. So as they are lowering,
he looks
him,
like the Pope too.
Yeah, it's definitely you can tell.
Whoa!
You don't think he looks like a Pope or a cardinal?
Let me see. No. Oh, well, his outfit, but he looks so ridiculous.
I'm not saying he looks like the Pope.
Oh,
He looks like a Pope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Then
he's dressed as a religious head figure.
Yeah,
Okay.
or Catholic.
I have much
religious
respect for Pope Francis.
Yeah.
He's very handsome.
This would have been Pope John Paul.
Yeah, it seems you could. I'm assuming Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon in the illustration are trying to imply that the Catholic faith was born from this religion or this
Gotcha.
the Grail was.
Yeah.
They probably one branched out of the other. It was the chicken or the egg.
Right.
To say.
And this guy clearly benefits from being in power, and
Yeah.
he's so fat because he's taking all the money.
But and the food.
Yeah.
But in unloading him from the plane, they drop him and he lands on one of the guys, and Herr Starr just walks up and shoots the guy in the head.
Right.
And his second in command's like, "Why would you do that?" And he goes, "Because if I hadn't have shot that guy, he would have tortured him and his family and everyone that he loves. This way, he's done. Like it's done and over with." And
which is crazy to think that this guy is so vengeful. The Allfather.
The Allfather.
Yeah.
Well, you find out why.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is vengeful, and spoiler alert, he's on to Herr Starr from the get go. He knows something is up, and Herr Starr knows that he knows that's something up. So he's very methodical and logical, and and has a strategy. Like he's one of those chess players where he's like 16, 20 moves ahead. He's got,
As are most religious leaders.
And then soon after, don't you soon find out the reason of why they really want Jesse?
Well, you find out both sides of it. So you find out, well, we already know that Herr Starr wants Jesse to pose when he takes over the Grail. He wants Jesse to pose as Jesus, and then eventually he'll kill Jesse, and go through the whole Jesus resurrection kind of thing again, or dying for your sins. But the Allfather is there with the descendant of Jesus.
So apparently, according to this lore, Jesus was given poison, right?
Yeah,
or they knocked him out.
Yeah,
so to fake a resurrection.
Yeah, and then
he actually lived, and then they basically, to keep the bloodline pure, never let them breed.
Well, then he died. He was run over by a donkey cart, like when he was 40, several years later. So then, for whatever reason, the Grail decided it'd be best to keep the bloodline pure, and they had
much like the Lay Angel's neighbor.
Yeah. Yes, very similar. And they had Jesus's descendants all
inbreed.
So did you see that part of it, Francis?
I did, but there's so many people.
It was hard to keep.
Yeah, this is where I started kind of like, I'm sure we're going to touch on this. I got the part when they go down to the basement. That's the part that I could follow when they find what they find, which we're not there yet. But some of this other stuff, because there's so many characters now, and
that's true.
There's like, yeah, like they're in France and they're at this restaurant, and then there's this guy, and you come to find out he's bulimic. I didn't get that.
Okay.
So it is good to like hear you guys. I'm like, oh, like. And I know how to read. I think I know how to read, but I missed a lot of that. Like,
there's a lot of detail that didn't really. It's not relevant to the story. It's just interesting nuances, interesting textures to the story,
and like interesting side characters.
Right. So the fact that the Allfather is bulimic is not.
Well, he's bulimic in, and this is another movie inspiration, in one of the Holy Grail, or not the God damn it. I cannot.
Oh my! You don't say that every episode.
Monty Python, the Monty Python movie where
I was worried you were thinking that, so I didn't say anything.
Where the Monty Python, you should have chimed in. It would have saved us all several minutes of me going. Where they have the big fat guy. And he keeps eating. He's like, and he's just vomiting as he eats. And then the guy says, "One little wafer." I think it's Eric. He's like, "Yeah, or maybe it's John Cleese." He's like, "The one little wafer. Come on, you can eat it." And then as soon as he puts it on his tongue, he explodes. That's the Allfather reminded me of that, because the Allfather eats, he gorges, and then he has like a golden hand with two fingers pointing up that he puts down his throat to make him vomit up everything, which is like, how are you fat if you're vomiting everything up too?
Who knows? But we find out that basically the current descendant of Jesus is this inbred dummy.
Well, and I think he killed his sister too.
Did he?
Or something. How did I miss all of this? Let me see.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, so then you find out that Jesus's descendant, Jesus the 23rd, is completely mentally retarded. His nose is like he's got this little pinhead with his giant nose, and all he says is "humper dumper do" or "suffer the little children, humper dumper do." And then Jesse and Tulip are at the same time planning. They go to bed, and they're planning to get up and leave the next morning to go attack Masada. And Tulip wakes up by herself and realizes
Jesse's gone on his
Jesse
own.
is cut out. And then there's a very it's like subtle implications of between Starr and the Allfather going back and forth. It's like the silent.
I know what you're doing.
Yeah, but it's completely. They're not even talking about the subject at hand, but somehow they are, and then as they walk away, it kind of ends, and Starr walks away with his second in command, and he's like, "What the hell just happened?" And he's like, "Oh, we're fucked. He's onto us.
Part I got.
Yeah, we need to make this happen immediately." There's a giant moth in here.
No, it's a butterfly, and it's been flying around. I think.
Sky.
Mothra.
I went Reading Rainbow, and you went Godzilla.
So Jesse ends up getting there.
Yeah, so he walks in, and he uses the word on several. You don't see this happening, but he uses the word on a bunch of the
guards
one guard to kill the rest, and then the surviving guard walks him in to the Grail. Come to find out, the Allfather is like 10th cousin removed from Miss Marie, Jesse's grandmother. And so the Allfather, wants to punish Jesse for killing his mother, who was a devout religious person. So that's why he wants Jesse there.
Right.
Not knowing that Starr kind of is going to use him for another purpose. He knows that Starr is up to something. He just doesn't know specifically what. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
Well, no, because we're going to get to the point. Or we're going to get to that part. Yeah.
So, come to find out that angel that fell from heaven is the father of
Genesis. Phil Collins.
Yes. So it's Phil Collins's.
And he's been trapped here this whole.
It's about a year.
You know, it's like.
Yeah.
So just to recap from the first volume, he's the one who screwed the demon lady.
No, the course of this book has been over about a year. From the time Genesis was created.
Until he hit the preacher?
Hit the preacher.
Oh, okay.
And that was around the same time that they expelled the angel once Genesis was conceived.
I don't think that's right because in the first issue, like Genesis was locked up for a really long time and he breaks free.
You're right.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I get that this story is happening in a year, but so his dad, the way that I read it, he's been locked up, held prisoner for a really long time. Yeah. And now the guy that you were just talking about, he's willing to like clean the slate with Jesse.
Who,
and let him live. No, the other guy.
Allfather?
No, the other one. You just said the third name.
You did?
The one that had the
Collins?
grandmother.
The Allfather.
Yeah, Allfather.
You're talking about the same guy.
I don't know.
The Pope-looking guy, the big fat Pope-looking.
No, not him. Let me see. Sorry, not him. Yeah. Well, someone is willing to let Jesse go.
That's Starr.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, is willing to let Jesse go. Like he'll say, "Well, wipe the slate clean. I need you to talk."
Yeah. So he brings him in front of the Allfather, but the Allfather is like, "Well, guess what? I'm enacting an old code where the two of you have to fight to the death." So Jesse starts beating the shit out of Starr. They're fighting a lot, and then Starr pulls out a knife and he slaps it out of his hand, and they're fighting. He throws him out a window, and then they wind up fighting. It's like an old Errol Flynn,
right?
Where they're like fighting
up
on the stairs down, and then they go into the catacombs, and then they find out that he's introduced to the angel at the same time. Mm-hmm. The killer, the Saint of all killers, is coming in, and he starts he's massacring everybody. The angel, it turns out, will tell the truth. Like he will reveal. He knows what God knows, almost to a degree. Mm-hmm. So he starts to say, God cut out. As soon as Genesis was born, he left heaven. He's now down here on earth. He's hiding from you, Jesse, because you have a power equal to his, although it doesn't seem to be exactly equal.
And also, you would think he'd be able to just basically take Jesse out if he wanted to.
Who?
God,
yeah, that's never, I don't understand.
See, I don't think God wants to take him out. I think he has the power. I don't think he wants to.
Right. But people seem to imply that God's scared of Jesse for whatever reason.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want to directly confront Jesse head on for some reason.
Right. But the angel's scared too to talk right now.
Well, no, at first he's revealing everything, about what's going on, like what happened with Genesis. God left, and then one of the characters says, "Oh, well, heaven, God's here on earth," and that's when the angel starts to freak the fuck out.
Yeah, because
he's on earth.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh shit," he knows what I'm saying. Like he's aware of everything that's happening now. So Starr is like, "Hey, we need to get out of this situation." Tells his second in command, go kidnap little baby Jesus's kid and go commandeer an airplane. You can use the kid as cover. They're not going to take a chance of shooting you. So while this is going on, Starr reveals to Jesse, like, "Hey, your buddy's here. He's still alive. We've got him down in the basement, but I've set off a timer. We got to get the hell out of here." Jesse gets the jump on him and carves into his skull, right down the middle of Starr's skull. He just cuts his head open, and then Starr leaves, and Jesse is like, I'm gonna go get Cassidy. So he runs down there, tricks, kind of, that doesn't necessarily trick, but he confronts the hitman, and he's got the rifle pointed at him. He's like, I was told what you can do, so the first word, out of your mouth, you're dead. And he goes, miss. And so he misses. He punches him, knocks the hitman down on the ground, and Cassidy comes over and chews his neck out. So they wind up escaping.
God comes down.
Yeah, and he kills the angel.
Yeah, kills the angel. I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself here. Confronts Cassidy and calls Cassidy a beast. Mm-hmm. He's like, you're a creature of hell. Like, you don't belong. I shouldn't even be talking to you. You're not even worth that. Like, you're not even worth the words coming out of my mouth. But it tells him, like, you need to tell your friend to back off. Like, his mission is pointless, and it's not going to end well if he continues. Then he burns the angel up.
Mm-hmm. For being a snitch.
Yeah, for being a snitch. This whole time, the Allfather is just sending troop after troop into to basically be killed by the killer of all saints. And his thing is like, I'm just gonna bury him with your bodies.
Oh, we forgot to mention too. Didn't the Saint of all killers also talk to the angel and basically said,
right.
Help us out, and I can tell you what happened to your.
He
your son.
Help Jesse out.
Yeah,
because he knows it's locked inside Genesis.
What happened to your family?
Why? Not only he knows what happened to his family. The Saint of Killers used to be a human being, and his family was killed. It's implied his family was killed or died. Mm-hmm. He's aware of that, but then he tells him there's a reason behind them dying. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just a coincidence that they happen to die. There's a reason behind it, and it's locked in Genesis' head.
Yeah. So now, go ahead.
Nope.
No, I was just going to say the Saint of all killers agrees.
Decides like, okay, I'm not going to kill you now, Jesse. I'm off that mission. Now that God's left the throne, I'm a free agent. I can do whatever I want, and I'm going to help you out.
Also, I think this is the time too when the angel tells Jesse, "You already know everything. Genesis is inside of you.
Yeah.
You just have to connect with that. Like you know all of this. You have to remember, because Genesis is inside of him."
Yep.
Right,
and so then he dies.
Well, yeah, and then like you said, the Allfather is just basically sending all these troops on suicide missions. Bodies are piling up as the Saint of all killers is basically killing everyone. As we learned in previous stories, you can't take them out normally with any kind of machine gun fire, so it's a suicide mission.
So then Starr gets into the helicopter that they've loaded the Allfather in with, or with another pilot, and so they start to take off, and baby Jesus' little son is down on the ground, and he tells the helicopter pilot to bank so hard that the Allfather falls out several hundred feet, and then crushes little baby Jesus' son.
And also kills himself.
And kills him, yeah, and is also killed by his own, well, not just the fall, but his own weight.
Right.
Then they escape. Masada blows up, and then the story cuts to Ireland in the probably 10, 12.
So basically that part of the arc is done.
Yeah.
And so now we find out
how Cassidy became a vampire. Mm-hmm. So,
and I read this.
Okay, so then I will be doing this all in Irish accents. No, I won't. That's terrible.
Well, it's funny. I just noticed. Side note: you've been wearing your sunglasses this whole time.
Yeah,
like
it's bright out.
We're not outside.
Yes, we are.
Not really. We're in a garage.
Yeah, but it's bright out. I have to. I can't.
Whatever, Cassidy.
I know you're taking this a little too far.
Oh, I see the point you were trying to make. I see. So you come to find out that during I think it was Bloody Sunday, when or Bloody Sunday. That's the U2 song is Sunday Bloody Sunday, but I think the actual event was Bloody Sunday, when there was a big standoff between Irish militia and the British Army. That Cassidy was there with his brother, and I originally thought Cassidy was the brother that was the one that was like, "Hey, we're all gonna die here. We need to leave." Our leaders, Michael Collins and the other group, are setting us up to be killed, so that we're martyrs. Like, I'm not going to allow you to do that. And the younger brother is like, no, we dedicated our lives to Ireland. We got to do this. And he's like, shut the fuck up. We're leaving right now. And it turns out the younger brother, the incompetent brother, is actually Cassidy. His real name is Proncius. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Proncius. Maybe it's Proncius. They make fun of it.
Yeah.
Throughout the book, it's later made his first name is, so it's Proncius Cassidy, which I guess is a traditional Gaelic name. And his older brother winds up killing a bunch of British soldiers. He kicks Michael Collins in the nuts. and they wind up escaping while all of the city that they're in, I can't even think of the main. What's the main Irish city?
It doesn't matter.
Dublin?
Yeah, Dublin is basically on fire. They escape and they're gonna hide out. Basically, he's like, we're gonna leave all the major cities because the British are gonna be combing every city looking for militants and probably executing us. So on their run, Cassidy, the young Cassidy who we know, asks his older brother to stop. Like, let's stop. I need a rest. We've been marching for days or for hours on end now, and I need a break. So while this happens, the older brother is like taking a piss or something, and he turns around, and this banshee thing, this woman,
this hag,
is biting Cassidy in the neck, and the brother shoots the hag in the face, and Cassidy slides into the water with her. So the brother leaves thinking that Cassidy's dead. Well, Cassidy, not knowing that he's a vampire, tries to get out of the water the next day. Is shocked to find himself alive, and then tries to leave the water and catches on fire.
He does this like 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
Because he's really the slow brother.
Right.
It takes him a minute to figure it out. So he waits till nighttime.
And then finally leaves. And
is able to get out. And then what I thought was really sad, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but I don't care if I am. What was really sad is he said he couldn't go back home because his brother saw him die.
Yeah.
And so what do you say to your parent? He knew his brother would think something was up, and so he had to leave. He couldn't stay there.
Correct, yeah.
So he comes
to America on 4th of July, and come to find out that the story is being told. Cassidy's telling Jesse this at the Empire State Building, which the Empire State Building they come back to a couple different times in the story. Like, they seem to go to New York quite a bit. So I'm wondering if Garth Ennis lived there or something. Or him because Garth Ennis is
an
Irish.
immigrant.
Well,
yeah, if that was his first.
That's what you see, right? You always hear about New York and Empire State Building.
Well, and Cassidy relays to Jesse. He's like, you're used to seeing New York now because it's in movies, it's on TV shows. But when I came here, that didn't exist. So I'm used to small little burgs and rolling hills, and I come here and he's like, it's just a mountain of buildings, and you're in these giant canyons of just city.
Yeah, and America too was founded on religious freedom. People broke free, and they wanted to have that freedom here. So that's all.
Well put.
What
Thank
the
you.
hell does that have to do with? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We're all talking about religion.
Yeah. So Cassidy is kind of almost right away, not kind of, he is taken advantage of. Someone steals his luggage. Mm-hmm. He goes into a bar, and the bartender kind of, it's an Irish bar, and takes pity on him. He's like, this one's free. The rest you got to pay for. And he winds up befriending another person there. And he winds up becoming really good friends with this group of Irish expatriates that are living in America, and go ahead.
Well, he realizes as they're getting older, he's not aging.
Yeah, so he has to kind of.
So he realizes he doesn't have friends for a long period of time,
Which was touched upon before when they talked about the girlfriend, because he had met her at Woodstock, and then she realized that she was getting older.
Neither one of them could stand to see her getting older,
right?
Yeah.
And him staying the same age. So he's going to this bar in the teens or the 20s of the 20th century, and decides in, I think, the 70s, I'm going to go back to the bar, check it out. It looks like it's like a hipster bar, and one of his buddies is there, and the buddy's like, I knew there was something different about you, Cassidy. I knew it, and kind of Cassidy's like, yeah, so, here I am. And they seem to enjoy a beverage together. And
yeah. Another thing I thought was interesting about Cassidy and all other vampire series that I've read, there's a whole slew of vampires, right? There's this underground vampire thing, and all these vampires, and you travel the world. He's the only one that he knows of,
other than the hag,
right? So like he doesn't have any other vampire peeps or homies. Yeah. He's an anomaly,
which gets very interesting because there is a story about that.
Yeah. Spoiler
alert. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
It's actually pretty funny too.
But part of this story, Cassidy's background is like you find out like he is kind of an incompetent person. Like he's not very.
He kind of just drifts through life.
He drifts, and he has this amazing ability. He has this amazing gift, but he just kind of wastes it.
Well, the fact that he can't be killed normally has basically benefited him. He would have died a long time ago.
Yeah, when he first gets his powers, he's like trying to kill a sheep.
And it looks like he's humping it.
Yeah, and the sheep herder runs out with his family, and they blast him with a shotgun, and he's kind of joking and laughing about it. He's like, "Oh, you should have seen the look on their face when I got up and ran away." So that's the end of Proud Americans Volume 3.
What'd you think of it, Johnny?
I liked it. I like that it brings the Grail. You're introduced to the Grail in Volume 2, and then you find out just how powerful the Grail actually is, and how prior to Jesse, you start to realize like, oh, there's other people. There's human mortals that are connected to God directly. Like they seem to be able to commune with him, which is strange. And, I didn't know you could have that kind of direct. I thought it was a one-way communication, not.
If you were religious, you would know.
Not two ways.
God speaks to you, just not in the way you think. And it's hard to always hear that.
What about you, Francis?
Well, I wish I had read it more involved because I missed some key parts. But I think that's the difference too. This is the first time I've read comic books in volumes and
binge watching.
Yeah, and I think I do kind of tune in, tune out. And also some of the story I'm kind of like, okay, like I don't really care. Like I don't care about the dad when he was in Vietnam. I get the purpose of it, but I personally don't care. So I start kind of getting lazy and kind of flipping through. But I think I always say this, that's a testimony to like the writing. Like you have to make me want to read it. And at this point, and we just from Volume 2, you get off of this horrific sexual stuff and it goes back to the story. So it seems kind of like it's all over the place, but I did actually end up really liking it more than I thought, especially the Cassidy story. And I did like seeing, that Jesus killed the angel, because that's just
God
more.
killed him.
God.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, Jesus, obviously. What was I thinking? But it's also telling me, and I haven't read this yet. I think you have, so you know what happens. But I don't think God is actually quitting. He's still, and there's still things going on.
Jesse's term is you quit on us.
Yeah. So,
well, no, I think the angels basically said that God
quit. Yeah, like God, we can't find him. But I did like it overall, and I do want to read the fourth one. Now, there's no cliffhanger. So if I had stopped reading at this point, like that's fine. But I still want to read. I want to read the series and see what ends up happening.
Yeah. Once again, I liked it overall. It was good to hear the backstory of Jesse's dad. I believe, if I'm correct, the official issue arc ended with the Grail storyline. The Cassidy stuff, I think, was a special. It was.
That makes sense.
I think there were special 4-issue miniseries that was separate. So technically speaking, not connected and released separately. If you were collecting the books, that wasn't part of the normal story arcs. But it was good to hear more about the Grail. They were kind of a parody organization, especially with the Allfather. I wish there was a little more grounded.
I think the Allfather being so out there, you kind of see Starr's point of like, look, this our organization has become so fucking delusional because of our leadership that I need to step in. Like, he's the voice of reason, although his reasoning is pretty horrific. His point though is like, we need to, well, you'll see more of his point later on, but like, he's there he realizes the the organization has gotten away from itself, and
For sure.
something needs to be done.
Well, and it was seeing Jesus' descendant clearly not capable of becoming the next savior.
Well, something else that I'm kind of curious about, I don't think it's going to answer this, but like, how does God kill an angel? What happens to it? Because there's the afterlife. So he already was in heaven.
Yeah.
So he's obviously not going to heaven. So like, okay, if he's killed, I'm sorry, not Jesus, but God. If God has killed an angel, is that angel now
In purgatory or non-existent, or
that's what I'm wondering. Like, did he go to hell? Which I don't think he did. Or like, yeah, is he like non-existent?
or like when the killer of saints shot that one lesser angel in the head when he was woken up, he shot that angel through the head. And it's like, oh, okay, well, where did that angel? I thought the same thing.
Right,
Now.
yeah,
Like,
because
where'd that angel go?
Because I believe in the afterlife, you're either going to heaven or hell.
Right.
I don't think you'll stay in hell if you get there. But I'm like, wait, what happens to the angel? Like,
Because
what's
when you're
after
cast out of
that?
heaven, you go to earth, and then once you're on earth, where do you go?
Yeah. So, or does he become human now? And then I
Questions.
yeah. But it's not my part to question God's plan. That's not my place.
Or Garth Ennis' plan.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I liked it. What I read.
Okay.
What about the part with like Jesus' descendants being so inbred?
I didn't get that.
Oh.
I didn't read it. Like just hearing about it, I'm
Is
like,
it
wow, really?
sacrilegious?
No, because yes, but I get that not everybody believes what I believe. I get that not everybody believes the Bible, and a lot of people think the Bible is just made up, and you either have faith or you don't. So I get that, and there are different theories, and I get that too. So this whole book is so absurd. This is not someone saying this is religion. I get that, and
It's not like Passion of the Christ when that came out and it fucking
Exactly.
upset everybody.
right but I will say again, props. The author
Garth
does
Ennis.
thank you. He does such a good job. There is biblical references. There
for
is a lot
sure.
of
He
research.
did his homework.
Yeah, and I wonder how religious he is, because I feel like he is based on this.
There's a lot of talk about what happened after the resurrection. What was his
Right.
life after that? So
Oh, he didn't just die right away?
He didn't come back and then boom, we're gonna kill you.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's a good question, and the Bible doesn't answer everything. The New and Old Testament doesn't answer everything.
All right.
So, but it's interesting too, because when you read the Old Testament, it's very much God is fearful, God is powerful, and there's all these sins, right? And God will make you pay and suffer. When you read the New Testament, Jesus is your savior. Jesus is love. God is benevolent. God is forgiving.
It's a little softer sell.
Yeah. Well, not, but there is, and again, the Bible doesn't say everything, so, but back to your point, I don't see it as sacrilege. I see it as a book that was written for entertainment, but it's an interesting theory.
yeah, and I think it's just an interesting visual way for a man to basically work through some of his questions of religion.
Yeah. All right. Well, where can folks follow you, Francis?
They can
P-
follow me on Instagram at Words and Waffles.
Our official Twitter account is at GN Explorers Club. Also, you can email us at gnexplorersclub@gmail.com. And we're on Facebook.
.com?
.com. From Third Rock. And we're on Facebook. And obviously subscribe and rate us on iTunes and Stitcher if you can, please.
Yeah,
and we're
thanks.
on Insta too.
Instagram?
Instagram.
Yeah,
Insta
we're
too.
also Instagram at GN Explorers Club.
All right. And then you can follow me, your old pal Johnny, at Serious Talk Twit.
Not my friend.
And that's right. You're goddamn right it is. Sorry. Sorry, Francis.
Never, ever have you ever said that in any other recording.
We're going to need like a cowbell.
Yeah.
Swear jar. And follow my other podcast at Serious or stspodcast.com. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah, and give those the iTunes an old rating for us, if you would, please. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Burn, you fucking witch, burn.
He's not a hillbilly.
No, that's true.
Let's give it a boot.